My guest today is my first industry guest and a long-time mentor and online audition coach. He is a casting director and has been involved in the industry since 1973. He started out in the acting field and had roles in some classic Australian productions, including Homicide and The Young Doctors, before moving into the world of casting, where he has over 100 IMDb credits as a casting director. He's helped forge the careers of many well-known actors, including some of my favourites: Guy Pearce, Sam Worthington, Russell Crowe, Eric Bana, Jackie McKenzie and Hugo Weaving, just to name a few. He's been involved in the casting of hundreds of television commercials, television shows, miniseries and many great blockbuster movies, including Mission Impossible 2, Knowing, Queen of the Damned and Romper Somper. I came to know him through his company, the Audition Technique, which gives his students the inside knowledge, what the casting director sees and how to bring an audition to life. How to make it stand out from the sometimes hundreds of auditions, as a casting director and production crew will see on the road to choosing that one actor for the role. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Greg Apps.
Hey, woo. Just need to pick you up on. We just need to pick you up on one thing, David. I mean, if you're going to mention that I was an actor, I'd rather the two credits you mentioned are not solely Homicide and Young Doctors. So if I can add Sunday Too Far Away, if I can add Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith, if I can add Rocky Horror Show, then I'm a happy camper.
Beautiful. I'm a bit younger, so I had to name the ones I knew. I haven't seen a couple of the others, but there's certainly some classics there, certainly.
Right.
And now, I believe you're now based in Lismore, and as most Australians would know, you've just gone through some of the worst flooding crisis for that area. I hope you and Robin are holding up okay from that.
Look, we are. It hasn't affected us directly because we're up on the plateau. But obviously our whole community is affected because we're halfway between Ballina and Lismore, and both were flood affected. And we're just now really learning the knock-on effects. I mean, the initial effects were the kind of the poisonous water that was kind of, that flowed through the town, because it sucked everything out of kind of septic tanks, dead animals, everything just got washed into this one big bathtub of water. So the mud that hung around was kind of, a big stench. So, but thank you for sort of thinking of it. And the other thing I want to say about it is how many people just turned up. We'd be standing in the street and a car would pull up and say, "I've just driven up from Sydney. I've got a kind of a car full of water and groceries and things like that. Where should I go?" So on spec, they just turned up, which,
That's awesome. Good to see the Australians are still there. I think through the COVID times, in my role working at an airport, I've just seen a big culture change and people have been so focused on themselves. But to see a disaster like this and to see the Australians still coming out and helping their fellow neighbours from another state, that's wonderful.
It is.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. A podcast that I've put together looking at the journey of late bloomer actors and the complexities of trying to make it in arguably one of the hardest markets in the world. But before we delve into picking your brain for your insights into how us older actors can make it successful in the acting world, can you give us a quick insight into your career as an actor and casting director? What has been your driving factor behind your success?
Let's start with being an actor. When I started acting, you got an appointment and you turned up at the appointment. When you arrived, there was the sides were put in your hand because there was no fax machine and there was no kind of, come and pick up a script. So in fact, the kind of the skill that was kind of that you really needed at that time was to have good sight reading. I can't imagine what actors who suffer from dyslexia must have gone through in that time. The first time, and I remember the first time I did an audition with a tape, and I pulled the chair up to this table, and they said, "No, that chair's on a mark." So I put the chair back to the mark, and the producer is sitting there because the producer wants to see my face, but the reader was over there, was on beside, off to the side, and they said, "But please look at the camera for your audition." So the person I'm talking to is there, but they want an eye line there. So it was rough and ready back in those days. But in terms of acting, sort of, I just got to the stage with acting that sort of I felt I'm turning up. As an actor, You love the idea that I'm going to do something different every day, that I'm going to meet new challenges and sort of new mountains to scale, and all that kind of thing, and sort of. But I found myself after a few years, I was sitting in the same waiting rooms opposite the same actors who were sort of my contemporaries, my peers. But sitting in the same room and sort of and invariably, like any actor, I'd look across and see Johnny there, and I'd go, oh no, Johnny's here. He'll get it. He's great for this part. So it was that kind of thing. So I didn't mostly what I didn't feel, because I was newly married and sort of had a child on the way, and what I felt was I couldn't make plans. I couldn't make plans that sort of this time next year I'll travel, I'll buy a car, I'll do anything. Because it was living, and it's very easy as an actor to live hand to mouth. But I think what you have to do as an actor is find yourself a kind of a plan B, a fallback, and it's not that replaces plan A. It actually feeds plan A. Plan A is to be an actor, and you need a plan, by the way. So, David, I've spoken about the fact that as an actor, you need a plan. You need to plot that by the end of the year, I will have cracked that casting director and I'll be getting auditions with them or something like that. Or I have a new agent or my first agent. You need to sort of have, that's plan A. Plan B is how to subsidize your life, maintain your lifestyle, so you maintain sort of, contentment, happiness, whilst waiting for plan A to sort of kick into gear.
That's interesting, isn't it? No, it goes a lot for, we'll talk a bit later about the late bloomer actors, because most of them have got a career in place anyway. So how they get around that complexities of making the acting work. But getting straight to the point, in your experience as a casting director, do you see in the audition room any significant differences between untrained younger actors that you might be seeing before they've gone to drama school, for example, and untrained older actors? Does the life experience of an older actor make for a better audition, or does it hold them back?
Well, like young people the world over, in any industry, in any career, they're bulletproof. They're kind of, so therefore they will attempt and try anything. Whereas sort of as we get older, a couple of things. One is we go, oh no, I've tried that before and that didn't work. And so therefore we take that option off the table. And the second thing I think is we go, oh no, I don't want to embarrass myself and do that. Whereas when people are younger, they go, yeah, stuff it, I'll have a crack at that. And so they'll actually go places that sort of, somebody with a little bit more maturity won't go. I'm really fortunate as a casting director, because in fact, in terms of sort of, being able to try new people, try different things, it's like, I don't need, it's not my career that's on camera. I'm not in front of people. I don't have a public face, and there's a territory of casting, because of, and mostly because of the digital age now, where I can try new people, try different people, and if they don't cut it, they don't get seen. They don't go beyond. Because there's these different levels of success in the industry for an actor. And at the first level is to crack it with a casting director, is to get the casting director to champion your work, the casting director to want to see more of you. And if that happens, now the casting director, and even with those people that I want to see more of, I'm waiting for them to be ready to present, to go to the next stage, to go to the stage of sort of, exciting a director or a producer about them.
So it's not always just skill set, it's about being ready.
Yes. One of the analogies I use is the fact that sort of if a tradesman comes into your house to do a quote, the tradesman that comes in with the kind of the nice polo shirt with their kind of their name embroidered and the kind of the company on the, and they've got the kind of, the calculator and the clipboard and all that kind of thing, and they come in and they're absolutely slick. So you go, wow, this guy is a great tradesman. This guy's a fantastic, no, he's not. He's a fantastic quoter. And I liken that to sort of doing an audition as an actor. So it's like, if you don't have that audition skill, it's easily to discount you as an actor. You might be a great actor, and and it's legendary. The kind of, and I've seen it myself in the room. Highly experienced, respected theatre actors who, when they get into that immediacy of sort of, the audition process, that instinctive kind of spontaneous moment to moment performance, they start to flounder. And it's not that they're bad actors. It's just that process that they're forced to go through, the audition process, is foreign to them, is not something they're comfortable with. They want the preparation because they've grown up through stage, so they've grown up through, I will present my character after 6 weeks of rehearsal, thank you very much. Not sort of, bang, it's 10:03, so it's your turn to audition. And so, therefore, it's those skills, and that's, as you know, there's many of the things that I talk about in our courses. It's kind of because you need to have the courage and the foolhardiness to be kind of, spontaneous and instinctive.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've listened to lots of other podcasts that have interviewed top Hollywood names, and fortunately for them, most of them say, I don't have to audition anymore because they come to them for whatever project is on. But even they say that they hate auditions.
Yeah.
So they're great actors. We know they're great actors because they're Hollywood bound, but they've said, hate the audition room, always have, and if I didn't have to do it, I'd prefer not to do it. So I think that's a very interesting point, is that here we are wondering whether we need to go and get the formal training. And that sort of leading into my next question is that so many younger actors are straight out of drama school. They've had that 3 years of training, whereas the older actors, they're coming into the audition space lacking that foundation, having perhaps only been able to participate in short-term classes or your local acting classes because of their 40-hour a week jobs, the servicing mortgages and family commitments and that. So when they come into that audition space, that's the training they really need, isn't it? How to deliver in that room, not how to be an actor on set.
Very true. Very true. I'm gonna sort of equate it as two ways. There's a pathway, okay. And you mentioned actors that sort of have 3 year training, be it 3 years or be it 1 year or whatever it is. But basically, they're going to the start. They're saying, "Let me get really good, and then I'll start to go off and do acting." And it's a bit like if you were a great architect and did great kind of sketches and a great graphic artist, so therefore you could display drawings and all that kind of thing. That's great. You're ready, willing, and able to do your stuff once you get the job. But has the architecture course, taught you how to get the job in the first place? And in that regard, that's to that extent. Instead of starting with training and then moving forward because I'm a good actor, I'd love to empower actors to understand no. Find out what the end result is. What do you need to deliver to get the job, to get the attention, to get the point of focus of the casting director, and work backwards from that? If that's the person who's got the job, if that's the person, the casting director, who is casting the jobs that I think is my next stepping stone, notice not the role you dream of doing, but the next role in my career path, how do I engage with them? How do I connect with them? And it's not just the person, it's actually the project. That I say there's three things you need to aim for. And it's not three at the same time. There's a choice of three. You can either target a person, and that's like a casting director or a director. And the director can be just a kind of a student filmmaker, that you love their work, that you chase them. The second thing that you chase is a project, that you see a project and go, I want to be part of that project. And so now suddenly you do your preparation in that project. So, if it's a crime series, you do little kind of self-tapes based on the kind of the criminal figures or the cops or the kind of the forensic scientists, the type of characters that populate the community in that project. And the third target that you can take in your journey is a character. That you are a great, Jim Carrey is a classic example of someone who was just wacko, wild, and, wild and wacko and fun and different and individual and all that kind of thing. And that's all he set out to do. But having done that, having achieved that, now suddenly people started casting him in drama. And one of the things I want everybody to think about is, because he went to achieve that place in the market, that niche that suited him. If on Broadway or anywhere there was a production of King Lear and Jim Carrey was playing King Lear, is he the best choice? And the answer is on, and you'd go, oh no, there'd be far better people. But would you go and see Jim Carrey play Lear? And the answer is in a heartbeat. It's that thing
definitely.
that he's created. He's created an aura about who he is, and I want to see more of him. And that's the same relationship an actor has to strike with a casting director. That the territory you occupy creatively is not driven by how good you are, but driven by how individual you are. Make sense?
Now, does that lead to actors? Yeah, does that lead to actors having we've discussed this before, but having a brand or having a character type, or is it just being able to mix and match? And like you said, when certain projects come up, that's when you start playing with the police officer character type, or if there's a dark and murky TV show, you start putting together some show reels of criminal entities. Is it about having one brand or being able to just mix and match when you need to?
It's mix and match when you need to, but sort of understand, like any product in the marketplace, in any product category, there's things that you're really good at. Coca-Cola is synonymous with sort of sweet, fizzy drinks, okay? They also own I think they own Mount Franklin spring water or something like that. The point being is that they also have but the words Coca-Cola imply a certain thing. The name Jim Carrey implies a certain thing. So therefore the point I'm making is you have these different things that you are honing and refining your craft in. Different things, different categories that you are really good at. So I think perhaps what I'm arguing is to say the first thing you work on is the characters, and work on 6, 8, 10 characters, distinctive, individual characters, different. So the cop through to the kind of the criminal, the school teacher through to the kind of the bad parent. You start working on these characters, and then a project comes along, and you go, I know exactly the character, the product, that will actually kind of, gain traction with that person casting that project.
Yes. It's a different thought process than most drama schools will teach, isn't it? And a lot of schools don't have the business side of acting, or they don't even do audition training. They just put you up on your stage and in front of your camera, and then say you're free to go. Out you get, and do it. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in an audition room and they have no idea who they are or what they want to be or where they're going. So very interesting.
It's the age-old thing of people think ability is what gets you noticed. It's suitability. If you're
definitely.
If you've got the great detective, the great cop, that's going to stand you in great. Yeah, and let's face it, in terms of a cop, how many roles of cops are there in television and film? And the answer is a lot. So that's a good stock character. That's a good stock character to hone and refine and sort of and create for yourself. And it's those kinds of characters, because as a character actor, we can say, oh, I played this great 85-year-old, Tibetan monk at drama school, and I'm just waiting for the opportunity to recreate that. And it's not going to happen. Because it's not a stock character, 85-year-old Tibetan monks. There's not many opportunities for those kinds of characters. Just bear with me.
Certainly. I remember you once talking about... Sorry?
No, it's okay. I was just saying I closed the door, so that's why.
That's cool. I remember you once talking about auditioning and how many actors try to follow the writer's notes 100%, and you called this the actor conforming. You said people don't become actors to become conformists. That being said, how many older actors would have this as a staple of their careers? You know, they're following orders, systems, regimes, etc., because that's what they've done for their entire career as in whatever job they're in. How do you suggest they step out of that mold and become a non-conformist actor, if that's the right way to describe it?
I think, again, that pathway. What happens when you get what do you do if you're creating a character? You read script after script after script. You're looking for the scene that you want to do. And in fact, and what prompts you to choose a scene? Many times it'll be what happens in the scene, but many times also it'll be you fall in love with a specific line. Because you just know, how that line sounds. And to a certain extent, what you're falling in love with is not the line, you're falling in love with the delivery. You actually are pre-planning that moment in the scene. And that is what is the catalyst to you choosing a scene to do. And I'm saying no. What is the end result? And the end result is I want this great, gritty, kind of grubby, kind of, detective. That's the character I want. The qualities of that character don't require a script to start to refine it, to hone it. So what I always say to people is read the script twice, put it to one side. Now go and work the character. Because you know what's going on in the scene. You can do an improvisation. I mean, let's face it, if you read the script twice, what sort of character or what sort of kind of piece of tape would Jim Carrey create, or Robin Williams, or Robert Downey Jr.? It'll be fascinating. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Why? Because they're borrowing from the qualities that they can put into that character, that they can bring to that character. That's the important thing. Whereas every actor, and especially at drama school, you are taught to absorb, consume the page. And it's the page, the page, the page. It's not the page. It's the character on the screen. So in that regard, the kind of, drama school training, and drama school training is still of the basis of the better you are, the more work you will get. No, you won't. No, not the better you are, the more appropriate you are. As I say, suitability, not ability. So I think, therefore, to wrap up what I just said, the idea is that you create as much distance between you and the script as possible. You go to the script at the last possible moment. And many people will be saying, well, how can I possibly create the character if I'm not looking at the script? Because the script has one character on it, one version of the character on it, and everybody's doing that. And an audition performance is where a casting director, what I call a member of the audition audience, is watching the exact same performance again and again and again. Think of it like this. You go to the theatre. You're sitting in the theatre and an actor comes out and stands front centre stage, stands on the same, on a mark at the middle of the stage, looking out to the audience and delivers the scene. The curtain comes down, the curtain comes up. Another actor, same age, same gender, comes out and stands on the exact same mark with the exact same, looking out to the theatre, and does the exact same scene. How many actors do you have to see before you start going, no more? Or more importantly, that sort of once you're seeing the fourth, fifth, sixth actor, how long do you need to see their scene to know whether you're interested or not? So, the person that comes in and tries to recreate faithfully what's on the page is the person who is the same as the person before them and same as the person after them. And the way to do that is to distance yourself from the script for as long as possible. For as long as possible. Let me give you another example, which is, or another part of the platform of my thinking, is the fact that the writer has to write a script whereby everybody knows exactly what's going on. So therefore, the character that's on the page is really apparent. That's what the punctuation does, and the writer directions, and this kind of, all of that kind of thing. The writer is making the character as clearly definable as possible, as clearly defined as possible. Why? Because everybody has to understand it. But now the actor gets the script and says, I know exactly how to do this. If you know exactly how to do this, so does everybody else. It's about finding the way that actually comes at that what I call the literal version of the character, the apparent version of the character, because that's what the writer has to present. The apparent version of the character. It's not what the actor has to deliver. It's what the writer has to present. And as I've said a number of times,
So that big,
the writer doesn't own the character. The writer owns the plot. The actor owns the character.
so when the actor's delivering this this character and this difference in the audition room, a lot of people see that as, I've got to do something really wacky, really strange to stand out, which is not, you're not going to go in there and scream and or do a dance beforehand. So you're just saying find something that you bring specifically to that character and to that role, and deliver it, and forget about the lines on the script.
Look, that's the kind of, again, David, that is the literal interpretation of what I'm saying. Forget about the script, forget about the line. No. What I'm saying, for instance, I'm in the middle of a course at the moment, and there's a scene we do, and it's from Chad Dalton, that company, Mock Sides. And it's about a girl who's scared of a spider and gets a guy to come over, to help her with the spider. And the whole scene is about the fear that this girl has of the spider. Okay, and so what does everybody play? The fear of the girl. What if the girl fancied the guy? So therefore she called him to say, come over because there's a spider in my house, because she fancies him, and she was just testing whether he would come over. And that's the suggestion I made to somebody, and they played it beautifully. But the fact is that sort of what she's done is not change the performance, hasn't done something wacky. She's changed the relationship. The relationship is no longer the fear between the girl and the spider, which is the literal version, the apparent version. What she's done is she's swapped the relationship to the relationship with the guy and saying, thank you for coming over. This is wonderful, because there's a spider. I'm really scared of spiders. And it's changing the relationship. And once you do that, the whole scene changes. The whole scene changes. And that is a risk. That's a risk. You've gone into new territory. But you haven't done one wacky thing to say, hey, I can do something different.
And I suppose at the end of the day, the casting director will see what you've done, and they'll take it as a positive or a negative, and redirect you down another path if they want another take, don't they?
Absolutely. But what they've also clocked is the fact that you will do something interesting. You will do something different. And let's face it, okay? Again, here we are starting at the end result. What's my journey in all of this? As a casting director, if all I was trying to do was to put 50 people down on tape and find the best person, I wouldn't get any work as a casting director, because I'm not actually applying any creative instinct to it. My job is to sort of, when there is the detective, to have the kind of the big dumpy fat guy, the kind of, the cold calculating woman, the kind of, the Muslim woman, the Muslim, in a hijab, the kind of, it's about putting variety on the screen in front of the director. Because otherwise, it's not, the script isn't set in concrete. The character on the screen is not set in concrete. It's like, actors will interpret that as, they don't know what they're looking for. Oh, yeah, we know what we're looking for. We're looking for a character that jumps off the screen, a character that actually contributes to the community we're trying to construct. It's like, and if you don't contribute to that community, you're not, yes, I know that you're not right. We move on.
And I suppose a lot of people have said, I've been called up for this job, and I'm not right for this role. I don't know why they're asking me, but if the casting director's asking for you, there's a damn reason why you're being asked. And it could purely be the casting director's vision to see a different character, as opposed to what we're just reading in the blank character description on the script. I was just talking to Stephen Walker on the last podcast, and we were talking about how characters have changed so much from the old days when everyone was blonde and blue eyes, and standard figure, but the Breaking Bad TV series and those shows have changed that mold, haven't they? That we now see this diversity of characters on screen, which is just brilliant to watch.
I think it's a byproduct of the kind of, the growth of cable. The thing about cable is free-to-air TV, okay, network television in the States, that was always, people watched it for free. So therefore, they just tried to aim for the lowest common denominator, aim for something that pleased the most people. So to a certain extent, what they wanted to do was it didn't alienate anybody. It didn't polarize anybody. Everyone went, yeah, it's all right. Because why? Because we're flicking through and we're sort of, we're just seeing something that we don't need to think about. But cable, people have to choose to subscribe to that cable network, and people have to choose to look at that series. So now suddenly they are forced to make a show which polarizes people. So now suddenly cop shows become really gritty and hard-hitting and sort of in your face, and there's some that are really tough to watch. That's the community that project has put together, and they have to for cable. They would have to avoid that for network television. So with that in mind, the characters have obviously changed. The characters have changed because, yes, you had to be... okay, let me give you the... this is the evolution of leading men. Back in the 80s, it was kind of Harrison Ford and Hugh Grant and all that kind of thing. It was people that were... and even way back when, it was Cary Grant and all of those kind of, charming, good-looking guys, heroes, somebody who is very appealing and charming, okay? And as I say, that carried over into the kind of the 80s with the Harrison Ford, the Hugh Grant. Then when the 90s came along, the actors, the ones that were leading men was Colin Farrell, Russell Crowe. Tough, scary, gritty, grubby, confronting. It was that kind of thing, mad, bad, and dangerous to know, dare I say. But then when it got to the 2000s, Seth Rogen, Michael Cera, what's his name from William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi. These are the antithesis of Harrison Ford. But that's the territory. So really the qualities that I'm imploring actors to find is vulnerability, is find the flaws of a character rather than the perfection of the character, because that is old school.
And I think William H. Macy and Steve Buscemi are two of the actors that you've always said to me that's the approach, or that's the sort of territory that I need to explore in my characters. And even after I've done all the training with you, and especially the Creating Compelling Characters course, which is just brilliant. I still struggle to try and find that approach because I'm still worried about, worried's not the right word, but it's still me coming up on the screen. And in one way, I've had you review me. I said, I don't want to see David Clarke, the actor. I want to see David Clarke in the characters. And I've sort of finding that area. How do I do that? Because I still get some roles where I do it and I go, oh, you're too nice. Your audition or your tape was too nice, because I'm a nice guy, apparently. That's problem, I'm struggling to find that.
Yeah, it's about...
I need to be a bit more of a prick.
To a certain extent, look, there, as far as detectives go, there's 3 or 4 different types. So, I mean, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. So, I mean, there might be a lot more. There might be less. But let's say there's 3 or 4, and there's the grubby one, and suddenly he's got a few days' growth, and suddenly he's got sort of, he'll certainly be plain clothes. He'll be, there'll be that kind of thing. He might even, he probably even does drugs. And now suddenly you can see we've created a version of a cop that you can imagine would exist, but a version of a cop that exists in a unique setting. But that's what we're looking for as casting directors in the kind of the digital age, in the kind of the cable television age. People that exist in unique settings. I mean, gone is the day of the cop, the doctor. The doctor that sort of, is a doctor kind of, 20 years ago was a guy with a full head of hair who was between 40 and 55, maybe with glasses, Caucasian, tall, good looking. That's a doctor. That's a doctor. Can you imagine, as a casting director, if I served up a tape to a producer or a director and that they're the only people that were on the tape? Caucasian males in their 40s with a kind of a full head of grey hair and all. I wouldn't work. I wouldn't work. So we're encouraging you to find, and I don't mean you specifically, but you, the actor, we're encouraging you to find the territory of a version of the character that is unique to you, that only you can play.
Awesome. I love it. All right, Greg, I know I'm mindful of the time that you've got somewhere to go. So just one quick question I wanted to delve into. And we were sort of talking a bit about the online world. Now, it's always been considered, well, in Australia here anyway, that Sydney and Melbourne were the acting hubs for acting in Australia. And many young actors, they pack their bags from their regional towns or the cities and they move interstate, which is, for us late bloomers, it's just not a possibility. We're settled with a home, mortgage, children, schools. In today's world of self-taping and Zoom callbacks, is the world opening up for actors who remain in their home states, or is it still a bit centric around the main hubs? And obviously this is very pertinent for anyone anywhere in the world, whether you're in LA or London, etc.
Sure. A lot of the people that I've worked with in the States, because you'd imagine in the States you've either got to be in LA if you want to be in television, but of course, you can be in Toronto or Vancouver now for television. New York is more staged, but now there's a lot of production out of Atlanta, Chicago, Miami. There are tax-free states as well, so they're going to look at Ozark. Ozark, where have they found those characters? Notice I didn't say actors or character actors, I said characters. So they are a character first and foremost. So the fact is you can sort of, work in your region, but you don't get access to the kind of the higher echelon of roles, generally speaking. But that's okay because, for many late bloomer actors, what they're doing is they're looking to break in. Let's face it, if you were in Ozark country where they shoot that, you know the kind of character you've got to create to attract attention. I mean, in the old days as well, of course, everything was studio based. So therefore, where were the studios? In the big cities. So that's where the kind of, the casting was done, and that's where the casting directors are, and the casting directors are based there. So I can't see an actor who is in Lismore, Broken Hill or something like that. I can't see that because my office is in Sydney. Plus also, there was the reliance on the fact that even when self-taping came along, it's kind of like, I can't cast somebody unless I see them in the room, unless I work with them in the room. But these days we're being forced to sort of cast actors from self-tapes. And now people are embracing it. They're embracing the fact that sort of, they can, it's a valuable, viable platform to sort of audition actors. So therefore, but to give it a practical conclusion, because you're saying, so for my listeners who sort of, want to stay in their region, what do they do? Well, firstly, identify who are the key people that are casting there, because we always dream of sort of auditioning for the big city casting directors. No, work out who's doing your local casting. We see all that. We see all that in the credits of American shows where the casting director will be credited, and then it'll say location casting or casting in Arkansas or wherever they might have done. I mean, and producers years ago would have said, I have to fly everybody in. Now they're prepared because actors are decentralised, because actors are staying in their home state. We do know that we can cast actors locally. We can cast people locally. It's really interesting. And you look at the kind of the shows that are around. I mean, one that really comes to mind, one of the first Alexander Payne films that sort of, really had a combination of local actors and main actors is a film called Election with Reese Witherspoon. And it was just, but you can see there's kind of they've cast real people from the community, and that it adds that local flavour, that local. Again, as I say, we're constructing a community.
Definitely.
So identify
And we've
identify who you have to target, and identify what type of. But again, make sure that you've nailed them with the characters. So when the character comes along that you're right for, bang, they go. Yep, let's get Dave in.
beautiful. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Greg, thank you very much. I love your insights there, and I really I've spoken with you many times, so I'm seeing you through our training and that. It was good to have that chat in a focused sort of area with the concept of my podcast being the late bloomers. So it's a pleasure to have you on. You've been a pivotal part of my late bloomer journey, having met you here in Adelaide for one of your visits, and then I've done the self-taping school and the creating compelling characters course. So it's I'm still waiting, I'm still striving, and I'm waiting for that first elusive professional on-screen role, and I'm sure it'll come soon. So I consider you a mentor and a friend, and I thank you very much for everything that you've given me in the past and that I'll get from you in the future. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Dave. All the best.
Well, I must say, I was so glad to have the opportunity to chat to Greg for my podcast. He's been a very pivotal part of my journey and a great influence on my audition technique and my character building, hence the name of the episode, Character Building with Greg Apps. You can find the Audition Technique at www.theauditiontechnique.com, and you will find information there for self-taping school and creating compelling characters. They're both absolutely brilliant online courses, and you can also find the Audition Technique on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. I'll link these in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I certainly did, and I look forward to continuing the journey with you next month. Thank you, and we'll see you on set.